Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Today's August 30th, 2021. It's Sri Krishna Janmastami, the anniversary of the appearance day of Lord Sri Krishna. We're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the Source of All Incarnations. We're on text 28, or in text 28, and I'll just give a view with Vishnu and Eze, Ladini Shakti, Payal. We're in a place called Alachua, Florida, from Jai, Alachua, Florida, yeah. Riel, Malini, and then here online we got Damayanti and Garuda, Hare Krishna, and Kim and Drew. Hello, Drew. And then there's Gajendra, Hare Krishna Gajendra, and Naresh and Ganesh Raj, who I'm assuming are coming in from Singapore, Malaysia, or somewhere like that. Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining us on Sri Krishna Janmastami. Okay, and so a few of you might have the hard copy. Our Vishnu, he wrote on the board the verse both in Devanagari and English. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivanottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatojayam mudiriya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and then to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta praise Vabhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Text 28, Chapter 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. Ete cha amsha kala pumsa Krishna tu Bhagavan Svayam Indra Ari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge
Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge
Ete cham. Go ahead, Izzy.
Ete chamsa kala pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Vidayanti Yuge Yuge. Vidayanti Yuge Yuge.
Ete samsha kala pumsa.
Ete chamsa kala pumsa.
Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Indrari Vyakulam Lokam.
Indrari Vyakulam Lokam.
Vidayanti Yuge Yuge.
Vidayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete chamsa kala pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Vidayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete. All these. Cha. And. Amsha. Plenary portions. Kala. Portions of the plenary portions.
Portion of the plenary portions.
Pumsa.
Pumsa.
Of the Supreme.
Of the Supreme.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
Two. But. Bhagavan.
Bhagavan.
The personality of Godhead.
Personality of Godhead.
Svayam.
Swayam.
In person.
In person.
Indra Ari.
Indra Ari.
The enemies of Indra.
The enemies of Indra.
Vyakulam.
Vyakulam.
Disturbed.
Disturbed.
Lokam.
Lokam.
All the planets.
All the planets.
Midyanti.
Vidyanti.
Gives protection.
Gives protection.
Yuge Yuge.
Yuge.
In different ages.
Different ages.
Okay. So just some words. So this chapter 3 of Canto 1, it's entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And before this verse, the chapter describes about 24 avatars or incarnations. So now the translation is, all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of His causeless mercy, the Lord descends from His transcendental abode. Avatar means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord Himself, descend on the different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life, to fulfill particular missions. Let's put everyone on mute here. Krishna, thank you. Sometimes He comes Himself, and sometimes His different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, or His differentiated portions, directly or indirectly empowered by Him, descend on this material world to execute certain specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fames, all beauties, all knowledge, and all renunciations. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of His different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time. For example, Lord Parashuram and Lord Nrsimha displayed unusual opulence by killing the disobedient Kshatriyas 21 times and killing the greatly powerful atheist Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that even the demigods in other planets would tremble simply by the unfavorable raising of his eyebrow. The demigods in the higher level of material existence many, many times excel the most well-to-do human beings in duration of life, beauty, wealth, paraphernalia, and in all other respects. Still, they were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Thus, we can simply imagine how powerful Hiranyakashipu was in this material world. But even Hiranyakashipu was cut into small pieces by the nails of Lord Nrsimha. This means that anyone materially powerful cannot stand the strength of the Lord's nails. Similarly, Jamadagnya displayed the Lord's power to kill all the disobedient kings powerfully situated in their respective states. The Lord's empowered incarnation Narada and plenary incarnation Varaha, as well as indirectly empowered Lord Buddha, created faith in the mass of people. The incarnations of Ram and Dhanvantari displayed his fame, and Balaram, Mohini, and Vamana exhibited his beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, and Kapila exhibited his transcendental knowledge. Nara and Narayan rishis exhibited his renunciation. So all the different incarnations of the Lord indirectly or directly manifested different features. But Lord Krishna, the primeval Lord, exhibited the complete features of Godhead, and thus it is confirmed that he is the source of all other incarnations. And the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Lord Sri Krishna was his internal energetic manifestation of his pastimes with the cowherd girls. His pastimes with the gopis are all displays of transcendental existence, bliss, and knowledge, although these are manifested apparently as sex love. The specific attraction of his pastimes with the gopis should never be misunderstood. The Bhagavatam relates those transcendental pastimes in the 10th canto. And in order to reach the position to understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, the Bhagavatam promotes the student gradually in 9 other cantos. According to Srila Jiva Goswami's statement, in accordance with authoritative sources, Lord Krishna is the source of all other incarnations. It is not that Lord Krishna has any source of incarnation. All the symptoms of the supreme truth in full are present in the person of Lord Sri Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord emphatically declares that there is no truth greater than or equal to himself. In this stanza, the word Svayam is particularly mentioned to confirm that Lord Krishna has no other source than himself. Although in other places, the incarnations are described as Bhagavan because of their specific functions, nowhere are they declared to be the supreme personality. In this stanza, the word Svayam signifies the supremacy as the summum bonum. The summum bonum Krishna is one without a second. He himself has expanded himself in various parts, portions, and particles as Svayam Rup, Svayam Prakash, Tade Katma, Prabhava, Vaibhava, Vilas, Avatar, Avesh, and Jivas, all provided with innumerable energies just suitable to the respective persons and personalities. Learned scholars in transcendental subjects have carefully analyzed the summum bonum Krishna to have 64 principal attributes. All the expansions or categories of the Lord possess only some percentages of these attributes, but Sri Krishna is the possessor of the attribute %, and his personal expansions such as Svayam Prakash, Tade Katma, up to the categories of the avatars who are all Vishnu Tattva, possess up to 93% of these transcendental attributes. Lord Shiva, who is neither avatar nor Avesh, nor in between them, possesses almost 84% of the attributes. But the jivas, or the individual living beings in different statuses of life, possess up to the limit of 78% of the attributes. In the conditioned state of material existence, the living being possesses these attributes in very minute quantity. varying in terms of the pious life of the living being. The most perfect of living beings is Brahma, the supreme administrator of one universe. He possesses 78% of the attributes in full. All other demigods have the same attributes in less quantity, whereas human beings possess the attributes in very minute quantity. The standard of perfection for a human being is to develop the attributes up to 78% in full. The living being can never possess attributes like Shiva, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. A living being can become godly by developing the 78% transcendental attributes in fullness, but he can never become a god like Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna. He can become a Brahma in due course. The godly living beings, who are all residents of the planets in the spiritual sky, are eternal associates of God in different spiritual planets called Haridam and Maheshtam. The abode of Lord Krishna above all spiritual planets is called Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, and the perfected living beings, by developing 78% of the above attributes in fullness, can enter the planet of Krishna Loka after leaving the present material body. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Pishakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the Source of All Incarnations, text 28. Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Hare Krishna. Okay, so of course, Veda means knowledge, and so there's the Vedas are eternal, and they were compiled in writing. About 5,000 years ago. The common conception or misconception is that, well, in previous ages, evidence of human writing goes back maybe 5,000 years. So the idea is before that, they just weren't smart enough to write because they were like cavemen and things. So then a different conception is that, so like in previous ages, a high percentage of the humans were Shrutidars, meaning they heard something once and remembered forever for their whole lives. And so crude things like pencils and pens, or even cruder things like laptops, were really not necessary. Not that there wasn't writing. We hear like Rukmini wrote letters to Krishna, and, you know, not that there wasn't writing, but the idea is that we're not, things aren't evolving, they're devolving. Evo, as the group is named. So monkeys in business suits and that sort of thing. So okay, so the Vedas were compiled, written, and the Vedas, there's Vedas for all aspects, all fields of human endeavor. Ayurveda, medicine, Dhanurveda, military art. There's Vedas on dancing and astronomy, and Vedas related to every aspect of human endeavor. And so many, or maybe most all of you, are familiar with the basic story of the Vedas. So Vyasadeva wrote the Vedas, and he was despondent. And so his spiritual master, Narada Muni, came, and they had an empathic dialogue. And Vyasadeva said, yeah, you see my heart, I'm discouraged. And Narada Muni says, yes, because you have so much compassion. Hare Krishna, yes, because you have so much compassion, and you know that with all these Vedas, people still won't get it. So Vyasadeva, sitting there on the banks of the Sarasvati, in his cottage, surrounded by berry trees, very picturesque description. He went into a trance, Bhakti Yogena Manasi, Samyak Sama, Samyak Pranihite Malay, Apashat, Pusha Purnam, and Mayam Chatat, Apashyatam. He went into a trance, and he got full vision of the absolute. And he got full vision of Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the absolute truth, with his energies, Maya, on his back, and the jiva. He just got, and so as a result, and he felt great pain for the suffering of the living entities in this age of Kali. And he saw the root cause of suffering is misidentification of the spiritual self with the material body, and not seeing themselves as servants of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, and Arto Pashamam Saksha, Bhakti Yogam Adhokshaje, Lokasya Janatad Vidvams Chakre Sattva Samitam. As a result, to give the essence, Nigama Kaptaror Galitam Palam Shuka Mukha Ramrita Dravya Samyatam, Pibata Bhagavatam Samalayam, Mohora Horasika Bhuvi Bhavuka, to give the essence and the Sarva Vedi Vihasanam Saram Samasumujita, the cream of the Vedas. Here's what you really need. He wrote the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is described, it's compiled, it's given to us, it's written, well, it's revealed to us by Srila Vyasadeva in the maturity of his literary career, we could put it that way, the maturity of his spiritual realization. Okay, so the Bhagavatam is the essence of the Vedas. The essence of the Bhagavatam is this verse. This is it. Bhagavatam has 18,000 verses. Over recent weeks and months, we've read root verse, just like Bhagavad Gita has 4 seed verses in chapter 10. Then Prabhupada calls chapter 11, text 55 of Bhagavad Gita the essence of the Gita. So this verse, this is the essence of the Bhagavatam. So if we see that in perspective, if we look, actually, most of the Vedas hasn't come down. Fortunately, the Bhagavatam has come down intact in a bona fide way. So the Bhagavatam is the essence, the cream, the purpose of the Vedas. And this verse is the essence of the Bhagavatam. So the millions of verses in the Vedas, and even the millions of verses that were there 5,000 years ago, before there's like the Mahabharata has 100,000 verses. And then there's like versions in the billions of versions for the demigod. There's the millions and millions of verses in all the Vedas. They're all to be understood in the context of this verse that we're reading here on Sri Krishna Janmastami. So it would be an understatement to say, this is a pretty important verse. It's all to be understood in the context of this verse. I'll condense it further. The second line, so 25% of this verse. This is the essence and the goal of the Vedas, Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam, those 8 syllables. Yeah, so everything is, because it's true, we could look at even Bhagavad Gita, what to speak of when we go to the Taittiriya Upanishad, or the Padma Purana, or the Puranas for those in the mode of ignorance or whatever. And so, but it says here, but here it says that Vishnu, but here it says that Shiva is this. But my mom told me. This Vishnu is looking askance. No, it's actually, we have more than practically at any other time we have in our assembly here between inline and we maybe have like, we have more people in our assembly than probably at any other time who can say, but my dad told me. Personally, my mom didn't quote the Taittiriya Upanishad much. I know they're maybe your dad in Buchenbrest, or they're maybe they were quoting the Padma Purana. I don't know. But we have spirit souls here who grew up with Vedas and Vayu. I was just yesterday, I had a fascinating conversation with Vishnu about the Vayu Purana. I don't know anything about the Vayu Purana, but he does, and it was fascinating because he's heard from. Like, we have people who grew up with this stuff. So, but at the yoga center, I heard. So, and the Vedas do say so many things. Bhagavatam says so many things. Bhagavad Gita says it's all to be understood in the context of the second line of this verse, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of God, the source of all incarnation, including in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Ahamadiri Devanam Maharshinam Chasarvasha. Well, there's so many demigods and incarnation. So Krishna is it's like another prophet. I'm the source of the prophets. I'm the source of the demigods. I'm the source of the incarnations. So this morning before japa, so this is the verse of the Bhagavatam and of all the Vedas. So this morning we read the first of the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam. And of course, it all goes to the same place. So the first line of the first verse of Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Atonvayadi Tirtashtrate Shvavigeshu Svara Teni Brahmavidya Dikari Yatyat Surya Tijuvair Midam Yatavimando Yachachar Chisargo Misha Damnasveda Sada Nirasta Kuakam Satyam Param Dimahi. So that's how Vyasadeva starts his epic, this epic that he revealed in the prime of his career, the maturity. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So this is how Vyasadeva started. Okay. Meditate upon Lord. He is the absolute truth. So Prabhupada references in his purport to the verse we read today, text 28 of chapter 3 of Canto 1. Mata prataram nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya maya sarvamidam protam suchimani gana eva. Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests on me as pearls are strung on a thread. So that's Krishna's direct analogy. Okay. Yes. All right. So a lot of us are involved in what we'll call personal growth work, and transformation, and personal development, self-discovery. It means like, let's go deep into ourselves. Let's have a deep conversation. So this all connects you. Like, what is superfluous, and sometimes what is most superfluous goes in the name of what is most deep. What is superfluous? So deep means really getting to the answer, taking off the layers of illusion, the layers of facade, and getting, okay, so, all right. So matter, right, so misidentification, dvayam vitya vinideshata, misidentification of the soul with the superfluous matter. This is the root cause of all anxiety. That, so to whatever extent we're living and thinking and acting as if I am the material body, then my life is shallow, even if I'm having really deep conversations. Trying to get to the essence here, okay? Then it's just because then I'm identifying with that which is most gross and shallow. And okay, now we're going to put a bookmark there. We're going to go back to the layers of depth. So Prabhupada talks in this purport. So the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Lord Sri Krishna, we said, well, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And see, that's the thing, like with Krishna, kind of like, there's no category that can begin to apply. Sometimes Krishna has been criticized. What Varna is he anyway? So what's he do? He drives a chariot. Sudra, he's a Sudra. Okay. Well, he was born to a Vaishya family, taking care of cows, milking cows. He's a Vaishya. Okay, and but he's definitely he was like this Maha warrior. So he's Kshatriya. He spoke this sublime philosophical treatise, Bhagavad Gita. He's a Brahmin. And the Bhagavad Gita is so much about austerity, giving up temporary gratifications. So what's Krishna doing? Dancing with these cowherd girls.
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. And they're married to others. His pastimes with the gopis are all displays of transcendental. These are manifested apparently as sex love. Okay. So the specific attraction of his pastimes with the gopis should never be misunderstood. So once Prabhupada was asked by an Indian body gentleman who had like, oh, well, there's this one, there's Ramachandra and there's Shiva. And Krishna has some qualities, but he's a questionable character. How come Krishna is dancing with others' wives? And Prabhupada responded, how come you are dancing with Krishna's wife? So that is like all these gopis. They are Krishna's internal energy. We can say the absolute manifested as the source of all energies, that's Bhagavan Sri Krishna. The absolute manifested as the energy, that's Srimati Radharani, that's Lakshmi Devi. So these are all what we're all meant for Krishna's enjoyment, whether these bodies are called male, female, human, frog, tree, whatever. We're all meant, all energies are meant for Krishna's enjoyment. So, okay, so we have gross matter, and then a little finer is subtle matter. Yeah, we have the Descartes, right? I think, therefore I am. If we read through his discourses, some Western philosophy. And Prabhupada would sometimes say the Western philosophers, it's like most of them, they're a form of Sankhya yoga, trying to analyze the material elements and get to some truth. So we realize, yes, I'm not the finger, I'm not the body, like that. It's like he identified with mind, with thoughts. It's a little more subtle, a little finer, getting towards the essence. Then there's like, yeah, not subtle matter either, but the all-pervading spiritual light, the all-pervading undifferentiated, that's Advaitavad, the absolute truth is the all-pervading spiritual light. So it's there is an all-pervading spiritual light, and that's getting to the essence, but it's still far from it, right? And so, so then we can even go towards Hare Krishna, Happy Janmastami, Hare Krishna. Okay, so we go to like intuition. So like actual intuition, whether it's material or spiritual, comes from super soul. So that's very, so Sarvasya Chaham Ridisa Nivisto. Matasmi Tirganama Pornam Cha. Krishna says, I am the super soul in the heart of all living entities. Krishna expands as Paramatma. So this is very fine to be the whole point in coach training, we always emphasize the purpose of all the methods is to support the client, to support ourselves, to connect with the highest guidance with it, to live from super soul realization is what we're talking about. So that's the self connected with the supreme self. So we have gross matter, subtle matter, and then gross matter, subtle matter can be subdivided. Subtle matter, mind, intelligence, false ego. It's quite a science, a real science of spiritual life. Then there's this, yes, I'm not the body. I'm spirit. Okay, well, we can go further than that. I'm not just spirit. I'm an eternal individual spiritual being. I'm an eternal individual spiritual being. And then, okay, so what's the soul of our soul? That's the Paramatma, the super soul. We are Atma, then there's Paramatma, super soul. And then super soul is an expansion of Vishnu. And Vishnu is expansion, chapter of Yuha, and the avatars. Okay. Ete Chamsakala Pumsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svaya. And if we get to the action, the substratum of all existence, even of the super soul, the substratum of the avatars, the foundation of everything, that is Svayam, completely independent. That's Sri Krishna. This is the conclusion of the Vedas. That's Sri Krishna. And so that's deep. So coming to that realization and cultivating our relationship with the personal substratum of all existence, that's living deeply. That's taking a stand. I'm not satisfied with a superficial existence. So, Hare Krishna Bhakti Dhira. Happy Janmastami to you. All right. So Prabhupada talks about different spheres of existence. He references Brahma, Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is a treatise that goes deep about Krishna. Goloka namni nichadamni tale chatasya devi mahesha havidam asuteshu teshu te prabhava nichaya vihitascha Govinda maripusham tamaham bhajami. So in the lowest region of existence, that's where we are. Okay, so this is Devi Dham. So it's governed, the governess is not that she is the lowest, she is a pure devotee of Krishna. Srishti stiti palaya sadhana shakti reka chaeva yasya bhuvanani biparti durga ichana upamapi yasya chachesta tesa govinda maripusham tamaham bhajami. So she has the somewhat thankless task. Durga, Kali, Shakti, the somewhat thankless task as the warden of the prison house. So this is the prison house. Then there's Maheshtam, and there's Vaikuntha, and then there's Goloka Vrindavan, like that. So Prabhupada then, I mean, it's such a fascinating purport, and so then Prabhupada goes into the science of the percentages of qualities, described in great detail in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion, and so so it's all about like so much of personal growth and self-discovery. It's about developing, connecting with the diamond qualities within, uncovering the modes of nature, all the qualities. Sometimes we use the term in Sattva of contract qualities, right? Contract qualities, powerful, loving, clear, playful, joyful. So these are all qualities of the soul. It's not like human potential is something new. The science of it is described in completeness. So these describe that all the qualities for the spirit soul in conditioned life to develop as we come to pure life, to develop those 78% qualities in full. Oftentimes the analogy is given like the drop in the ocean. And in one sense, these percentages indicate a limitation of that analogy. Because the idea, but Prabhupada uses that because we can understand about the ocean by studying the drop. And that's so illustrative. If we study the chemistry of a drop, the percentage of hydrogen and oxygen and whatever else might be there, the salt, then we understand what the ocean's about. Just the ocean has a different quantity. The ocean has a different quantity. Similarly, by looking at us, we want to dance, so that desire to dance must be in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We like to eat. We like to relate. We're social beings. We're striving for happiness. So the nature of the Supreme must be Anandamayo Bhyasat, ever expansive bliss. We're looking for knowledge. So like that. So whatever we want to serve. We want to serve. And so, okay, so we can look at the drop, see the ocean. At the same time, Prabhupada is making that actually Krishna has some qualities we don't have, what to speak of quantity. Okay, so that it gets a little more nuanced too. So we develop, so by cultivating that relationship with the personal substratum of all existence, then our spiritual diamond-like qualities naturally shine. So this is the ultimate in self-development, personal growth. And of course, as we do like to emphasize, we want to be careful, become a common term in the past 30 years, be careful of the spiritual bypass, because this process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful. And so a lot of the weeds in the heart, a lot of the anartas, the greed, the lust, the envy, the laziness, the staunch determination that I will be the enjoyer. I will enjoy in this car that's going to blow up, to use an analogy from a few days ago. I will be the Ishvaraham Bhogi Siddham Balavan Sukhi. And then rather than fulfill our responsibility to pull those weeds and drop that garbage, if I'm not sufficiently humble and sincere, I can pretend it's not there. Because look, I'm doing some chanting. I'm absorbed in Krishna and the gopis. And at the same time, if we don't pull the weeds, then even the watering process of chanting Shravanam Kirtanam will water the weeds. So we want to be careful of that artificial pseudo-transcendence. Still, the point is there, that as we cultivate our relationship with Sri Krishna, that's deep, then naturally all superfluous stuff goes away. All superfluous stuff goes away. And all the auspicious qualities of the diamond soul radiate forth and shine brightly. It's described in the Bhagavatam. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat ikinchana sarva gunes tatra samasate sara harava bhakta sekuto mahaguna manovartana sati davato bhai. And if we're trying to develop qualities apart from that actual depth of our relationship with the personal foundation of all existence, then it's bahi. It's actually, it's deep, but it's external. It's on the chariot of the mind. It's on the chariot of the mind. And there's always going to be some impure motivation behind the kindness, behind the compassion, behind the empowerment, like that. So today is Sri Krishna Janmastami. In this process of Krishna consciousness, there are various recommended, suggested guidelines, rules, regulations. And as Krishna emphasizes to Arjuna, he says to Arjuna, after speaking the entire Bhagavad Gita, please now do as you wish to do. No force, no coercion. And Krishna, as Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the best friend in our hearts. Actually, he's the soul of our soul. Super soul is the soul of our soul. Krishna is the soul of the super soul. So Krishna wants our best interest. And if there's force or coercion, then there's no love. So he's wanting Arjuna and us to choose wisely. And the essence, just like we identified the second line, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam. It's the emperor verse, just like there could be so many kings and ministers and governors and government agents, and then there's like the emperor. So this is the emperor verse of the entire Vedas, and especially the second line is the emperor line, Krishnas tu Bhagavan. Everything else is understood in the context of this. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. Krishna is the substratum of all existence. Smartavyat satatam Vishnu vismartavya najatuche. So all the rules and regulations, whichever we choose to follow or not follow, are meant to serve the ultimate, the essence of all rules and regulations. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Anukulyasya, sankalpa, patikulyasya, varjanam. And to whether we're talking about our intelligence or a house in our name or talents or material resources in our name. And so whether we're using them effectively or not in terms of that ultimate purpose of human life, Attato Brahma Jigyasa, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam, to use everything, and so this is this Krishna consciousness. It's very world embracing, not world rejecting. It's about cultivating the capacity, not whimsically, but with intelligent discretion under the guidance, just like, well, what I'm saying, that this is the emperor verse of the Vedas. This is our parampara. So we know, so we learn how to use everything in Krishna's service, just like, yeah, like our to fully manifest our creativity within the container of this emperor verse, within the container of the guidance and higher intelligence of our parampara, specifically coming through our current link to the parampara, Srila Prabhupada. We can see Srila Prabhupada is the expert in using everything for Krishna service and rejecting anything that's not supportive of Krishna service. And in that way, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Project Janiyatma Shivaya Gyanam Hetukam. We engage in service to Vasudev Sri Krishna, and then all that knowledge and detachment, and with detachment from matter, then the beautiful qualities manifest. We don't know, like, right to the extent that we got this needy, grabby attachment to anything material, gross or subtle, then we're in this cloud, and we're drained, and we're alienated from ourselves. Detachment from matter comes automatically. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatidhyaitan brahma bhuya kapate. Detachment from matter, from the modes, and that frees the soul to shine. And then with that shining, that sattvic shining, the idea, the recommendation is to use that freedom for more intense devotional service, and not to misuse our freedom to get further entangled in the lower modes. And then, like, I fell in the pit again. I fell in the pit again. Okay, so this is text 28, chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the Source of All Incarnations, Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vedayanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your attention and presence and association. I welcome at this time any comments or questions. Malini.
Such a perfect verse on Janmastami.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I was just thinking of all that yesterday. We were in the park with Aladini, and I was thinking, okay, it's Janmastami, so it's really Krishna. Krishna is the owner of the 100% attribute. But what if we do, celebrate other Krishna, like. And so I was just thinking of all that, and
Okay.
your class kind of clarified. And I was thinking, I heard a class from Srila Prabhupada where he said the 78%,
Yeah.
it's not achievable for humans, like demigods.
Yeah.
And also sometimes Prabhupada, he said devotees are demigods.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it okay, like naturalist demigods will be there on the 78%
Yeah.
of fully manifested qualities of the jiva.
Yeah.
And the human being can come to that if they become pure devotee of the Lord.
More than that. So like,
more than that, because
so like,
the demigod, if they are not pure devotees,
right.
They don't have the 78%.
Yeah, that's described here in the purport, that Brahma, the topmost demigod, who's also a pure devotee, he has the 78% in full.
Mm-hmm.
So we can become Brahma. Maybe we've already been Brahma.
You're already being Brahma.
We forgot. But we
I
forgot.
didn't forget. I still want to be Brahma. I want to go back to that.
Yeah, so sometimes people are like, well, you forget, like, why should we believe something? It's, like, okay, do you believe that you were ever 2 weeks old? Yeah.
Did you remember being 2 weeks old? Well, no. Okay. So you clearly believe in existence that you don't remember. So just to torpedo that argument. Yeah. So someone like Srila Prabhupada, okay. So that he's higher than the demigods. He's higher than the demigods. And so Prabhupada describes that Brahma has 78% full. The demigods like have maybe 78%, but not in full. Okay, so like, different dimensions, maybe it's 78%, but most of those qualities are maybe 40% manifest. And then in here in Devidam, in the prison, you know, maybe like some of those 78% qualities are like gone, and most we get 20%. So we can surpass the demigods if we follow Prabhupada. You know, we can develop the 78% full. Thank you, Mama. Garuda.
Hare Krishna, good morning.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. I don't know if I have a question or just something that I'm thinking about. Yeah, I'm thinking about like Krishna descending to the material world for a particular purpose and different times and places, and thinking about like how Krishna's like when we chant Krishna's name, it's non-different from Krishna himself.
Yes.
And then thinking about like, well, that is Krishna's presence in this particular age that we're in.
Yes.
And I don't know, there's something about that, like that. I mean, I feel like sometimes I get disconnected from that like reality. And then other times, like, you know, just thinking about it this morning, I'm like, wow, like Krishna's presence by like us, like, you know, basically calling out to Krishna and Krishna becoming present in this particular age that we're in. And could you share a little bit about like, because I know that like when Krishna descends, he's, you know, to reestablish like, you know, the original like paradigm of like who we are and, you know, what this life is. And then also like he plays the role of like, you know, eradicating demoniac, you know, consciousness, or even like, you know, these very powerful demons. So could you say a little bit about like evoking Krishna, like through chanting his name, his presence, and like the effect that that has in this particular age? I don't know, could you share a little bit about that?
Thanks for the opportunity to share. Thank you. Yes, because so Prabhupada writes in the talk in the purport. Thank you, Garuda. That Krishna is counted amongst the avatars. So it's interesting language. He's counted amongst the avatars. So he's an avatar. But no, he's the source of all avatars. Right? Like text 23 describes of this chapter describes Krishna as an avatar. And this verse says, but not really. So he's counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. And then again, thank you, Garuda, just completely makes sense to talk about Krishna's presence, full presence, nothing missing, complete Krishna's full presence in his name, and especially the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Kali Kle Nama Krishna, Kali Kle Dharma Krishna, Krishna avatar. So Krishna is descending in the form of his holy name all the time, and especially in this Kali Yuga. And yes, and that's why Prabhupada will often say, like, you might think, but Arjuna had Krishna right there on the chariot, so he knew what to do. And Prabhupada will emphasize, Arjuna had no advantage over you. Krishna is fully present in his name, also in his Vani, in his books and Bhagavad Gita, and especially in his name. Namna Kali Kama Sanashana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So, thank you again, Guru. A verse from the Padma Purana. We talked a little jokingly earlier about the Padma Purana. But the Prabhupada quotes, Namo Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukta Binatva Namanamino. That Krishna is non-different from his name. His name is identical to him. He's fully present, complete, Purna Shuddho, completely pure, Nitya Mukto, eternal, complete, and complete and pure. Binatva Namana. Binatva means no difference, no difference. So that's how we bring the philosophy to life, by chanting Krishna's names all the time, 365 days per year. And today is meant to be a special day to increase our hearing and chanting, and to bring us to we can think of New Year's, January 1st, but we can also think of New Year's, Janmastami, to bring us to a essentially a higher, deeper level of deeper quantitative and qualitative in our hearing and chanting. So that's like the bridge, that's applied philosophy. That's how we realize Krishna is a source of incarnations. That's how we, through this hearing and chanting, hearing Krishna's name, studying Bhagavatam, chanting, fulfilling our commitment to chant japa rounds. For some people, because they're so engaged in service, Janmastami is the most difficult day of the year to complete 16 rounds. Yes, I remember once this was a Janmastami. We were living in Osofia, Israel, and it was the Matajis were preparing a big feast. We were having a feast, and then I just left, and I actually chanted 64 rounds that day, 64 rounds like that. And I came back, I think I went into the kitchen and go, hey, did you complete 64 rounds?
Oh my God.
No, I thought some of them were going to take the pot and start like throwing things at me. Why aren't you blissful? This is Janmastami. Okay, so yes, so that's how we realize the philosophy, through chanting. That's why Prabhupada's he's giving us like this is the most important instruction. Chant, fulfill your commitment, fulfill your daily commitment. I've got more important things to do. That's Maya, that's illusion. I've got like that. And so Krishna is fully present in his name. And we realize that the more and more we chant. It's like, well, I'm not realizing this because I've got offensive chanting. The cure for offensive chanting. More chanting. Just like the reward for devotional service. More service. Oh, no prize. The prize is more service. Okay. So so Krishna is non-different from his name, and it's hard to read more than a paragraph or two in Prabhupada's books and not hear that. Prabhupada's so much saying, like, you want to realize you're not the body, you want to realize who you are as a servant of Krishna, you want to realize the bliss of the soul and come out of the ignorance of Maya. Krishna Surya Sama, Krishna is like the sun, Maya Haya Andhakar, chant Hare Krishna. Does that respond to your question to some extent?
Very much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, elaborating on it, and kind of sharing more about that reality.
Thank you, Garuda Prabhu.
There's no question asked. Yeah.
Ganesh Raj, did you have a comment or question? Or just...
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
A very wonderful, happy Janmastami greetings.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm Gopinath Das from Malaysia. I've joined your talk before through the Singapore group. Yeah, it's almost 9:15 here, and it's just a few more hours to go to the great the Arati at 12. So my wife is preparing something and I'm here. So Prabhu, you have mentioned that this is, of course, this is indeed the emperor verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I would say it is the emperor verse of the whole Vedic scriptures. Now I understand that Bhagavatam is accepted by all the sampradayas, bona fide sampradayas. But now I'm curious. This concept of Krishna being the source of incarnation is not accepted. I mean, by the general like worldwide Vaishnava community. Like how we understand that concept. Is still they are in the understanding that it is Lord Vishnu or Narayana is the source of incarnation, and Krishna is an incarnation. How do we understand this anomaly in the context of this Krishna's tu Swayam Bhagavan verse?
Thank you, Gopinath Prabhu. Thank you, and yeah, you're there on Janmastami night. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So, thank you. I appreciate your comment, your question, and yes. So, whatever I understand, it's from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's my current link to the Parampara. I'm no expert on other sampradayas, but what you're saying, it's so relevant because for the most part, people who know something about the Vedas, that's why I made a little jokingly, it's like, this is the emperor verse. Yes, not just of the Bhagavatam, just of all the Vedas. This is the emperor verse and the emperor line. That's why I said but my mother told me when I was 6 years old, like that. But my dad used to say that Shiva is okay. So that's why. So what we're saying today in this verse, it's generally not understood, right? Like Hindu stuff, yoga stuff. It's missed. It's generally not understood. There's varieties of misconceptions, and that's why Prabhupada talks about Krishna and the gopis here. That's one of the reasons. Oh well, Ramachandra, he's more moral, so we'll take him, and because people misunderstand Krishna and the gopis, and so then that clouds their intelligence for understanding Krishna as a substratum of all existence. That's just so. I'm not an expert in the different sampradayas, whether bona fide sampradayas or just mishmash sampradayas. But I what I hear from Prabhupada. So yeah, that's such an important because it's not gotten. It's missing. Krishna's position is just he's one amongst many. Like Krishna's position as the source of all, the source of Shiva. As the source of Lakshmi, it's the source of material spirit, the substratum of all existence. Outside of the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya sampradayas, it's generally misunderstood. That much I know. That's why Prabhupada stresses it. Why it's misunderstood, I've given a few indications, and I'm sure there could be many PhD theses on that. But we can just go to who compiled the Vedas? It's Vyasadeva. What's Vyasadev's realization? He compiled the Puranas, the Upanishads, and his realization is Sri Krishna is the substratum of all existence. Sri Krishna is the absolute truth, the source of the super soul. So that's Vyasadeva. And so again, it's like not. It's not. I don't know all the arguments, but what I understand is they're whatever the arguments are, they're not getting the conclusion of Vyasadeva is given in the first verse of Bhagavatam and this verse that we read, and so they might have so many things to say, but we understand that's what emperor verse means. We understand whatever said in the context of Vyasadev's realization. He's the author. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, I admit this subject matter is not that easy to tackle. And like you mentioned, different sampradayas. It is we can only understand if like delve deeper into those sampradayas. Yeah, of course, it's not an easy subject matter to tackle in the context of this verse. But I mean, we are fortunate that we have Srila Prabhupada's elaborate purport that explains it nicely. So as far as like Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is concerned, it is very conclusive for us. Krishna is the source of incarnation. That much we could understand. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Your comments deepen my appreciation for Prabhupada to give us the clarity. Malini.
The name of this one was Naresh?
Gopinath.
Gopinath. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That comments, dear Govinda, I would like to ask, because Vaishnavism, when we say Vaishnavism, my understanding is worshipper of Vishnu.
Correct.
The word itself,
Yeah.
Vaishnavism. So is it that anyone who worships Vishnu, not necessarily Krishna, is a Vaishnava? Because the comment of Gopinath was, why some Vaishnavas don't accept Krishna?
Right.
And it seems that even in the beginning of our Sampradaya,
Yeah.
that was even true.
Yeah.
Until Madhavendra Puri.
Right.
And until Madhavendra Puri, the worship was Lakshminarayan
Yes.
and Vishnu.
Yeah.
So it seems that
Or maybe there was some worship of Krishna, but just Krishna and not Radha Krishna.
some worship of Krishna and just Krishna, not Radha Krishna. So it seems that in the name Vaishnavas and what Gopinath is saying, that can the people who are worshipping Vishnu, not necessarily Krishna,
Yeah.
they are still Vaishnavas.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, like they
For
are
sure.
not Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
They're just Vaishnava, and maybe the limitation of their knowledge is not as advanced than what we are receiving through Srila Vyasadeva. Like Christianity, Lord Jesus Christ said, there was so much more I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
And people worshiping God, so in a
It's-
sense they are Vaishnavas, they worship God,
It's a form
of God, Paramatma. And so, I'm thinking of those, I'm reading the third canto of the Bhagavatam,
Yes.
and so I'm thinking about those things a lot, like the creation and who is Brahma is speaking to, because he's describing Vishnu a lot, but then he say, the vision of Goloka Vrindavan. And so there is, it's not always clear.
It's clear.
Who are we really worshipping? And sometimes, people they speak about Krishna. Well, what Krishna is? It's really, like the proper source
Yes.
of Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam, the one who have 100% of the attributes, or is it Lord Vishnu?
Yeah.
Or even Dwarkadish, or
Yeah.
different aspects like that. So that's something I'm thinking about a lot. And to add to that too is Sri Krishna, when he does come for his pastime here,
Yes.
he does take the portal of all the other avatars.
Yes, he does.
And I believe that's why Prabhupada says an avatar,
Yeah.
because he takes the portal of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu.
Yes.
And that's how it comes.
Mhm.
And I think most of the misunderstanding in the Hindu Vaishnava community is because of that.
Yeah, because there's references that, Vishnu is the source of Krishna, and that's true in a sense.
Mhm.
I appreciate your sharing your realizations, Malini, that different avatars come and give knowledge that's relatively more or less complete, depending on their historical time and circumstance mission. So it's not that Vishnu Swami or Ramanujacharya or the Barkas, it's not that they are incomplete in their realization, or Jesus, that they had a particular mission, or Buddha is complete in his realization. At the same time, he had a particular mission, which is practically to mislead people, but for an auspicious godly purpose. And the Prabhupada makes it clear, yeah, we can't become God, we can become godly. And so, yes, yeah, and so also in our Sampradaya, of course, the full Radha Krishna, the full Achintya Veda Vaitapa is there with Vyasadeva, like that, but then it got covered. And then Madhavendra Puri had his role, Lord Chaitanya and Six Goswamis has their role, like that, to give us this complete. So yeah, so different of the, so between Shankaracharya and Lord Chaitanya, there was a series of 4 powerful Vaishnavacharyas who each gave more and more complete, encompassing revelations about the Veda conclusion, culminating in Lord Chaitanya's Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, Lord Chaitanya's full devotion to Radha Krishna.
Thank you. And then if there's no question, I have an announcement. There's a question after I go.
Gajendra.
Hare Krishna. I hope this wasn't discussed, but I missed it. So somehow through all this, I started thinking about Sumati Moraji, and it was said that she was, a devotee of Krishna, but she was specifically attracted to Krishna's childhood form of Balakrishna.
Yeah.
So when we look at, say Krishna as a baby, and we're celebrating, Janmastami, and then there's, Krishna who's older in pastimes. I mean, this is all the same Krishna, is it not? And when he was here, he had these different manifests, these different age stages of life. What is the difference between being a devotee of Krishna more so at a particular stage of his life, where you'd have that kind of information about Sumati Maharaji, where she's attracted to Balakrishna, what would cause that, and is there any difference in the quality of devotion or level of realization of Krishna in his fullness?
Thank you, Gajendra. Thank you. Okay, well,
I mean, in the sense, we're still talking about Krishna, not a different incarnation. I'm just trying to bring it within the range of Krishna.
well, my understanding, from studying Srila Prabhupada, is different devotees of Krishna have different rasas, Parento ras and Sakya ras, Madhurya ras, so the different attractions, and so it's in Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. There's no difference. There's no difference. At the same time, there's a difference in terms of intimacy. Like there's nothing incomplete about being especially attracted to Krishna's babyhood pastimes of childhood. Nothing incomplete. At the same time, there's just relatively more intimate. We gave the example yesterday. We had a program in Melrose at Prabhupada House where we have a Chaitanya Charitamrita group that just like a person in this world, maybe he has his wife, his work colleagues, his buddy who he plays sports with, and children, and different people in his life, and they're all feeling complete in that relationship. The mother's not wishing she was the wife, and the children aren't wishing they were the tennis buddy. Like they all have their particular relationship. Some relationship he might share more intimately, but like, and so there's that. Well, related to what you're saying, and this, I'm not saying this applies to Samarthi Maharaji, but some Hindus or whatever who have problems, or even Vaishnavas who have problems with Krishna and the gopi stuff, they'll just focus on Krishna as a baby,
Balaji.
on Balaji, and that's wonderful. There might be some
She's from
misunderstanding.
Gujarat, I think. Also Gujarati kind of tongue to
Gujarati, okay.
Krishna, Prabhupada.
Yeah. So of course, Prabhupada gives us, you know, Bhagavatam, Krishna's energies, and then culminating in this Samam Bonam 10th canto, Krishna's pastime, starting with Janma, even before Janmastami pastime. So it's natural for different spirit souls to have different personal affections for Krishna in his various pastimes. That's natural.
I appreciate that answer. I think was good for me. It helped me begin to look at it better. I understand that what you were saying about the different rasas and level of intimacy. So I'm just trying to put that together, yeah, with that sense that it's still the experience of the devotee is still complete. It's not partial. So that was a helpful for me to look at. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gajendra.
I think there's a lot of that when Prabhupada visited Surat for the first time with all his disciples.
Yeah.
And they were in Gujarat and the people received them with so much abundant opulence, and they worship all the devotees that Prabhupada brought. And Prabhupada said, yes, they are naturally pious, they are Vaishnavas, and they worship, you know, baby Gopal, and he regards them as Vaishnavas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Rukmini wrote also Srinathji. Thanks for that, Rukmini.
Yeah.
Damayanti?
Would it be like recommended like to connect with different like incarnations or even ages and stages of Krishna according to one's own like to intentionally connect with a different form according to like where you're at? Like, for example, like for me, I'm often tend to feel guilty relating to Krishna as like an all-powerful, all-knowing God, you know, Father, and like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I'm just like apologizing, you know, or just feeling bad about myself. But I just heard, I don't even know who Gajendra is speaking about, but I was like, what would it be like to just focus in on Gopal or Damodar, or, you know, some sort of smaller form, and have it maybe experience more affection and more like open-heartedness? Would that be something to like intentionally do at different points in one's life?
Yeah, if you or devotee, any devotee has an inspiration, I'll say, yeah, and under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, so that, you know, wherever we go, that, okay, let's hear what Prabhupada's say. Let's hear what Prabhupada's saying about Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, Krishna protecting the cows. Let's yeah, so yeah, that's wonderful, and under the guidance of the devotee through whom we understand Krishna. Thank you, Damayanti.
That makes sense.
1 month a year, so we have that kind of built in.
Damodarastakam.
Kartik, you know.
Yeah.
Every year, like a refresher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about the forms, just I find it interesting. I never brought it up or said it out loud before, but just that well, it seems that Krishna, we are recommended to worship Krishna as a kind of the ever youthful 16-year-old boy with, you know, Radharani, like that's kind of recommended. So it seems like there is a particular form, and he just recommended it. I know that Prabhupada, with Lord Chaitanya, we worship Lord Chaitanya before he took sannyas with the long hair, like on the altar.
Yes.
And Prabhupada made a comment like, we don't worship Lord Chaitanya in sannyas because it's like painful for the devotee to see that, that Krishna underwent so much austerity and so much, it's like, that's painful for the devotees. That's like, wow, it's really, advanced level. I wouldn't think that, but he's probably supporting that. Like here, you don't want to think of Lord Chaitanya like this. I wouldn't have that awareness to think, oh, that's painful to see the Lord in that they're taking sannyas. But like Prabhupada's here, like, so we don't commit offenses, or so that we don't like. He's giving us the best way, the safest way to like think of things that we wouldn't think of, like Malini was doing with me yesterday when I'm learning Arti. Supporting me to not be offensive with things I'm unconscious of. So it seems that like, so we could go to different forms of incarnation, but then Prabhupada's giving like, Prabhupada then is giving like, well, here's a way to like, the path of least resistance or path of least offenses to follow. And also just for like Prabhupada's form himself, that we worship Prabhupada as a 70-year-old, 70-year-old plus, form.
Yes.
Like we don't have, it's not, we could have pictures of it, like we see pictures of Prabhupada as a householder and with mustache and young and with his son, and it's like, we could take pictures of those and put on the altar perhaps, but it's like, that's not recommended. And that's, we have a certain form of Prabhupada that we worship. So I just find that to be interesting, and it's, I'd like to, it's something that opens up for me, and then I don't know, the opening, inspiring thing, especially the Lord Chaitanya, like you're not worshiping in sannyas. It's like a heart opening thing for me that I don't really understand.
Yeah, and so you're sharing what we say. Yes, so Prabhupada gave us a structure, gave us guidance, and it includes Krishna in Damodar, and Krishna in Yashoda, and Radha Krishna. It also includes Lord Chaitanya in the sannyas form, like Prabhupada gave us the Madhya Lila and Antya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, not so much on the altar, like that. And so just like more and more get to know Prabhupada's guidance in his totality. And if we have a particular inclination, like to really read those Damodar pastimes or the Damodar Astakam, maybe some devotees, especially in Brahma Samhita, or some devotees like Ishopanishad's my book, or like that. Like get to know all of Prabhupada, that's complete, and we might have a particular inspiration for some particular forms of Krishna as given by Prabhupada, forms of Lord Chaitanya. Thank you, Prabhupada. Priya.
You said that we were worshiping, Vaishnavas were worshiping Krishna before Madhvacharya, and then Madhvacharya brought in Radharani.
Madhavendra.
My understanding. Yeah.
Say more about that.
No? No, I mean, I don't know too much more about that. But even like if we look at some of the pictures in Chaitanya Charitamrita, pictures where Prabhupada guided the artists, we see like some of the temples, it's like just Krishna. It's just Krishna. And like that. So I just know that that's there. Radharani, that's very intimate. And so that was
India, there's many temples.
just Krishna. Yeah. Srinathji. Yeah. So then just Madhavendra Puri, he revealed Radha Krishna like that.
Yeah, and then I also heard from two people in 1 week, it was really interesting that there's no mention of Radharani and Bhagavatam. It's not like once in the actual literal translation.
That's correct.
It's really interesting.
That's correct. Yeah, I've heard. One explanation I heard is Shukadeva Goswami would just go into ecstasy if he said her name, so
He was avoiding.
he was avoiding it.
He talked like not gopi or something.
Yes, correct.
Interesting. It's very intimate. Like,
Very intimate.
Yeah.
It's to the essence of the essence. Malini had a comment or
I have an announcement.
An announcement.
I have an announcement. For our Janmastami this year, we don't really have a place for festivals that I know of. And so we thought about having the place of our festival on the Facebook group. And I know Ladini and I, we have been thinking of skits and thinking of pastimes. And so for the last, like 24 hours or 48 hours, our mind is really absorbed in Krishna. Why? Because we are thinking of something we are going to share about Krishna. And just by absorbing ourselves in that service of trying to know what we want to share, naturally we are just like, oh, and the Govinda and that pastime and that pastime. So we encourage everyone to be in that mood of sharing something about Krishna. And by doing that, you get to enliven us. And also by doing that, we are in the mood of like remembering Krishna, because we are serving Krishna, absorbing ourselves in Krishna and Krishna's pastime. And my second announcement is that at 12 p.m. today, Eastern time, Yogeshwar Prabhu will do a chanting of the Brahma Samhita. And it's a chant alone kind of program. So he will be there and chanting it. He learned it by heart, and everyone, can join in. I will try to see if we have a print or something that we can post at the same time for everybody to chant the Brahma Samhita. The Brahma Samhita is Lord Brahma, the beginning of creation. He was given the vision within his heart of Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan. And the Brahma Samhita is ecstasy of describing what he sees, what he understands, with all the knowledge of Krishna given in his heart. Govinda, Madhipusha, Tamaham, Jamina, worship the primary Lord. So everyone is welcome to joining with Yogeshwar Prabhu at 12 p.m. today. And I look forward to receiving and being enlivened by whatever you want, a quote, a drawing, a skit, a guess, like miming a pastime and seeing if we can guess which pastime it is, a dramatic reading, a song, a kirtan, a bhajan about Krishna, whatever you like to share. Hi Krishna, that's my announcement. Happy Janmastami.
Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Janmastami ki jai. Lord Shri Krishna ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you.